You need to force yourself out of what's in your normal routine, what you're used to, by setting bigger goals for yourself. Professional speaker and entrepreneur Brian Tracy, he tells a story about this. He says, a sales manager I once worked for, whenever he hired a new salesperson, he would say, "Do you have a car?" And they would respond saying, "Yeah, of course I have a car." And the manager would say, "Come with me." And he would take them down to the nearby Cadillac dealership, and he forced them to trade in their car on a Cadillac. And the first payment was due the next month. And so these salespeople, they got really nervous, like really tense about this, that they had to make these payments, and their wives, they got really upset. But do you know what happened? Every one of them became a great success because they started driving around in a brand new Cadillac, and they started seeing themselves as if they were these top salespeople. So they spoke with greater confidence. They had a different self-image. They had a different self-concept. You need to start seeing yourself as the best in your field. And the only way to do that is by setting these big, big goals for yourself and demanding a higher expectation of yourself. Muhammad Ali, he used to say, "I wouldn't count my sit-ups. I'd start counting when they hurt." Most of us say, "Okay, I'll do 10 reps," right? We make that up in our mind. And then we stop at 10, even if we're capable of 15, 20, 30. Or sometimes the subconscious mind just kicks in that you fatigue at 10, only because you told yourself that. But Ali, he knew that in order to be better than he was yesterday, that he needed to go beyond where he's ever been before. That's adaptation. Let me share a story with you to reiterate this point. It was the second day of the national tournament during my sophomore year of college. At this point, I was battling a significant shoulder injury for 3 months. My labrum was completely torn, my biceps tendon completely split. I was strapped up in a shoulder brace to give some support because it felt like my arm was going to fall off. I went 21 matches in the beginning of the year without a loss, and it wasn't until my shoulder dislocated completely in the third period of a match in late December that I suffered my first defeat. And my shoulder was never the same since that day. So I had to refrain from competition and live practice for months because my shoulder would dislocate in basically any kind of compromising position. And when you're in wrestling, it came out over and over again. So my doctor told me that I had to get surgery, but I just delayed it because I wanted to finish out the season. I didn't want to miss the tournament. So my shoulder dislocated over 10 times during that season. And so anyway, it was the second day. And 40 minutes prior, I lost in the quarterfinals by a pair of points. And I'm the kind of wrestler who's normally very aggressive, going after leg takedowns, and I wasn't able to do that. I was limited. But you can't make excuses as to why you came up short. You either win or you lose. Life doesn't come with asterisks. There's no such thing as maybes or almosts. So now, since I lost, I was in the All-American round of the consolations, the wrestlebacks. And basically, win, I go on to place top 8 and be All-American. Lose, I go home with nothing. So 20 seconds into the match, I go in for a shot, and bam, my shoulder pops right out. And I can't describe to you, if you've ever had a dislocated shoulder, what the agonizing pain is like. But basically, I'm running around the mat like a chicken without a head, literally. I have no idea what's going on. You can't think. You see stars. But my coach knows exactly what happens as soon as this happened because it's happened so many times before. So he waves at me for 10 seconds until I'm finally able to regain some senses to hear him say, "Come over here." And so my shoulder's still out. He grabs me. He looks me in the eye and he says, "Do you still want to go on?" And I can't really make out much in the way of words, but I nod vigorously with my mouth clenched tightly. And normally my shoulder can come right back in if I throw my arm forward as if I was tossing a baseball from center field to home. But this time I couldn't do it. There was nothing that was putting it back in. So he says, you got to look away because the ref is coming. And we got to hurry because if the ref sees this, he's going to call the match. And so Parker basically grabs my arm and he's able to pop it back in after standing up with it a few times. And so he slaps me on the butt and he says, "If you're okay to go get it." And so without hesitation, I line right back up to the line. So I knew in my mind right there that there wasn't anything going to stop me from being an All-American again. I didn't want anything else stopping me from achieving that. I got back on the line, and immediately I had like this vigor in my eyes, like this wasn't stopping me. And my opponent knew it right away. And he was just like, this guy's nuts. And so wrestling conservatively, faking shots to prevent stalling and capitalizing on opportunities, I went on to win the match 7-2. See, seldom do we push past our comfort zone. As a result, we frequently avoid daunting tasks. We prefer a lack of undertakings, minimal responsibility. But being at ease does not benefit us. It only makes us relish in our inadequacies. It does not better us in any regard. We don't get smarter. We don't get tougher. We don't get stronger. We don't improve. But if you choose to push past this comfort zone, you have a reference point for the rest of your life that you have everything inside of you to be able to take on daunting tasks in the future. It's what builds us up as people. It develops our character. It cultivates us into tough individuals. You must push past these pain barriers if you want to be successful. If you are a basketball player, is going up with your right hand on the layup every time going to make you better? No, you better practice with your left hand 500 times a day until it's second nature to you like it is your right. Right? It's easy to make shots with your right hand. Force your body to make that left hand shot easy. And you could take this with any profession. Right? This is a rudimentary example, just so you have an understanding. But you take this and you expand to any profession that you can imagine. If you want to be something more than just average, you must delve into the idea of being uncomfortable. Greatness is achieved when you're willing to do what the lazy want. You must go into uncharted waters. You must face that uncertainty of whether or not you could fight this pain. But if you're willing to be uncomfortable, if you're willing to stay there, you will be great. And if you're willing to really reach failure, well, then you'll be a legend. So where do you set the bar for yourself? If you're just looking to get by, how can you possibly be the best? Do you want to just pay your bills? Or do you want to be a millionaire? Or perhaps you're brave enough to say billionaire. Are you content with flying coach or first class? Or do you want to fly private, G4 jumbo jet? Is participating on the high school basketball team good enough for you? Or is your goal to be a superstar in the NBA? Do you want to pass your exam? Or is it your responsibility to get an A? Are you content with being mediocre? Or are you hungry to exceed far past that? Demand a higher expectation for yourself. The better off we wind up in the end. See, we usually don't reach our marks if they're too high. But the greatest detriment is in not setting a mark too high. It's in reaching a mark that was set too low. Your goals need to be lofty. And even if you end up short, I guarantee that if you gave it your heart and your soul, you'll be better off than if you set your expectations low. See, a lot of times we just say to ourselves, oh, I just pray that I pass that exam. But the one who's sitting there thinking like, I better have gotten an A, I expect nothing less than that, are the ones who 9 times out of 10 will get the better grade. Because when you expect more out of yourself, your level of work ethic and preparation meets that level of standard. If you're walking into the exam or the competition expecting to crush it, odds are that means you're going to be prepared for it. When you walk in just hoping to pass, your subconscious knows what you need to do to prepare for that. And your level of preparation really wasn't where it needed to be to excel. So you need to ask yourself, do you just want to get by in life? Or are you willing to make the necessary sacrifices to be great at it? And that starts with your expectation.